Don, you ready?
As ready as I want to be.
We're back. Now, new business. We have a request from the East Long Meadow Garden Club Annual Plant and Bake Sale, Saturday, May 9th, 2015, from 6:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Heritage Park and Pavilion. It's approved by the DPW and recommendations from the Police Department. I'd like to make a motion to approve the Garden Club's bake sale and plant sale.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I will second out a necessity, but also let you know that I am a member of of the club.
Okay.
I don't believe that would sway me
I think
one way or another.
Yeah, I think I voted on Rotary Club stuff, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to sway my vote.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Note that there was a citation for Christopher Penniman, who became an Eagle Scout. The ceremony was held on February 21st, 2015 at St. Paul's Lutheran Church at 181 Elm Street.
Oh.
Next item, and congratulations to Christopher.
Congratulations, yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to accomplish. We have a request from a retiree regarding health insurance.
The board will recall that it had passed a policy about allowing for a retiree who to make one request if they were not on a policy, if they did not have a policy, they were not using the town's health care insurance, they have one opportunity to make a request. And so this is a request from this retiree to basically go on, I believe it's going to be a Medi-Rap type plan. So the board, as part of the policy, said that any such request would have to at least come before the board for consideration. The Benefits Administration Manager has confirmed that the retiree would be eligible for participation.
Okay, any discussion from the board?
I just noticed that the form is blank. Is that by design?
Yes.
Is it redacted?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any questions? All right, so is that something we have to vote on now?
It is something that the board is asked to vote on.
All right.
But for now, right now?
There's a timeline as far as, yes, so that the retiree would be able to know whether or not they're going to be able to participate.
Okay.
And so deductions or payments could be made for the April.
For the
Talk
April-
up a little, Nick, so I can hear you.
I'm sorry, there's a timeline insofar as the retiree would need to know so they could become a participant come April, because they have to start paying for their coverage.
But we have a meeting on the 17th, right? March 17th?
The board has a meeting on March 17th.
Could we make that decision then?
Yeah.
Just asking.
I believe the board could do whatever it's.
No, we can't do whatever we want to do.
No.
Don't
No,
say
I mean,
that.
it's up to the board. The consequences are, it's a delay in coverage for the retiree, if the board, or denial. And given the policy that the board has accepted, I don't know that denial's an option.
Right.
I would have to move that to council. It's really, the board had wanted to have that last bit of oversight, I think, to make sure that the Benefits Administration Manager had looked at it. But again,
Okay. Well, we can always put it up for vote, and if it doesn't get passed, then we can hold off till next time. Well, I suppose that if it doesn't get passed, that would be so when would the coverage be effective?
it's my understanding that the coverage would be effective April.
So if we vote on it on the 17th, wouldn't it still be effective April?
But
It would. I think it has more to do with when payments could start to be made on it.
if I may, through the chair, if this retiree is sitting probably on eggshells, waiting for this to come through, and it's just an oversight, we're just giving a stamp of approval or something that we have to do anyway, why would we delay it?
True. And obviously it's something that we have done before, so it's not like.
What would be a reason why we would say no?
I would assume if the benefits coordinator determined that they weren't eligible or they had another option. That's my guess. I don't know, Nick, you can.
That's my understanding as well.
Okay.
As I recall, it was, when the board made the decision on the policy, it was the board's pleasure to have this last opportunity to make the vote on the recommendation,
Okay, after it was
rather.
vetted by the benefits coordinator.
Right, so that the board would at least have some knowledge that this is the case,
Mhm.
rather than the benefits administration manager making those decisions and doing it without notification to
Right.
the board.
Okay, all right. Given all that, I'd like to make a
I just want to hear from Selectman
I'm
Gorman.
sorry.
I'd rather table till the 17th, so I know a little more about what's going on here. Myself.
Okay. All right, out of respect,
Okay.
I'll go along with that.
All right, we'll do that. We have a request from St. Paul the Apostles Church for a one-day liquor license, beer, entertainment on Sunday, March 15th, 2015, from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. At the Social Hall in St. Paul the Apostles Church, 235 Dwight Road, in conjunction with a birthday party. Insurance on file. I'd like to make a motion to approve the liquor license and the entertainment license for the event on March 15th at St. Paul Church.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, Board of Health.
Let me see what we got there. Board of Health for old business, the only thing I got for the old business is we have a health agent in place temporarily right now. She couldn't work the 19 hours, she could only work 18 hours
Right.
because she retired and it's going to interfere with her retirement. She's an hour and a half away from here, and she works 2 9-hour days and stays here overnight. But I gotta say to everybody, she is looking for something closer and another job.
Okay.
So she was upfront with us and told us that, you know, if she finds something closer, she will be giving us a notice, which I thank her for being truthful to us. So right now, she's doing a good job. She got all the credentials, but she can only work the 18 hours. And we probably will lose her also if she finds something better, because she has applied for other jobs closer to her hometown,
Okay.
which is up by Grafton, so.
All right.
Then, new business here, on the mosquito spraying. We have the JBI helicopters are offering us, again, in response to our request for aerial application, lava site as follows. Spring application approximately 1,000 acres, and that's going to be $14.97 per acre. If we get a summer application, approximately 500 acres will cost us $17.07 per acre. So JBI will do the same as past years to provide the town with the wetland areas that have been sprayed, and this will be in print format. Do you know the date, Nick? Did we approve this yet?
Well, Mr. Chairman, what you have here is the quote, in fact, the only quote that we received.
Yeah.
We solicited 4 vendors and posted it on the website. This is, has happened like this in the past. I think one year we had more than one vendor submit a quote. So my recommendation would be for approval of this quotation, and then to tell the board, to answer your question, the request for quote went out with the dates of late April, first week of May, and we watched that pretty closely, or rather, Mr. Esposito watches that pretty closely because we want to be mindful of the weather, the way the water's running, and the canopy of the trees, so that when they spray, it doesn't get all caught up with the leaves. So it's a little bit flexible, but generally speaking, until around the last week of April.
But it may be a little different this year because of the snow, depending on all the snow.
It very well could be, you're correct. So my request here is for the board to to recommend to the board that you approve this, and, I would note that this quote is $1.54 per acre more than last year's quote.
And it's the only quote we got.
It's the only quote we received, yeah.
Ain't got much choice, huh?
Through the chair. Did they say why they increased?
No, I didn't ask.
You didn't ask.
Have you had any complaints, Nick, about them doing a bad job or? not?
Well, this firm has done the spraying, not continuously, but probably eight out of the 10 years that I've been here.
Yep.
And the only reason the other firm stopped quoting, and I didn't send one to him this year, is because it became a fixed wing operation rather than a helicopter. This firm did have a complaint 2 years ago now, and it was a pretty serious one as far as it seemed that there was one resident who had an awful lot sprayed on their property, on their deck, and on their pool, and on their roof. The resident brought it to my attention, I brought it to the company's attention, and the resident, next time I caught up with them, indicated to me that the company did come out and
They did, yeah.
clean the place and handled it to his satisfaction. So there was one complaint, but they seem to have been very responsive to it.
I gotta say, they go behind my house, because I got a stream back there, and I tell you, they do an excellent job. They go back and forth 3 or 4 times, fly real low,
Mhm.
but they seem to do an excellent job. So, I'd like to make a motion to accept JBI Helicopter, their quote on spraying this aerial application.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. The next thing on the agenda is proposal from temporary health agent Lois Lunowitz on a food establishment plan, a review application and proposed fee, and other licenses. What the new health agent is proposing is a food establishment plan review application checklist. It's quite intense. I read it on the computer, and what it does, it's she puts this out when someone's gonna have a eating establishment, and they gotta make out all this paperwork and get it approved, or if someone is changing modifications to their place, and no work will begin until this office gives a final approval, because we're having a little bit of problems with some of these eating establishments where we're not able to go out and check them like we're supposed to be doing, because we have a health agent that only can work 18 hours. And it gives us all the information on refrigerators, whether the temperature of things. It's got a whole list, like 3 pages long. And so what she's trying to do is establish a checklist for the health agent. So we have a little more information on these places, and then if they change hands, they have to get reissued again, which some of them try to pass it off and use the same thing. And the fee is $150 for these businesses to make out this checklist, and I assume it goes to the health department. So I don't know if you got any, Nick talked to her on this briefly, so.
Mr. Chairman, if I could maybe just add to what you've said. First of all, I will explain to the board that what you have is just page 1 of, I believe it's 12
Yeah.
pages of an application that is a draft application that Ms. Lunowitz has used in another community. And what she is proposing is exactly what Selectman Gorman had said, which is to establish a system via this application process for when new businesses that would require certain health establishment licenses to come in, that there be a way for a more thorough review to be done via the checklists by the health agent. And her experience is such that she has used this very application, and the fee that the community charged happened to be $150 for that process. Now, it would also affect certain changes for, and that's a proposal, and that's want to make that clear to the public, that this is an amount that another community used. Certainly, any fees that the board might want to consider would be subject to the board having further discussions. I wouldn't want to represent that that's the fee and that needs to be it. But anyway, what I will be doing is providing the board with the full application. Really wanted to allow Selectman Gorman give the board the idea of what's going on, and then have you take a look at it as individual members, come up with your questions, maybe for Ms. Lunowitz, see if you like the idea of what it represents and how it could fit in with the health agent.
Okay. Through the chair, in the interest of saving a treat, perhaps we can have that scanned in so that we can look at the full document.
Yep. You know, the document she gave us is way more thorough than anything we ever had in East Long Meadow. I mean, like Nick said, it's from another town that she used to work in, but what I like about her, she's given us better ideas on what to do and how to do it,
Okay.
which is definitely what we need.
Okay.
So
Why
if
reinvent
you
the
want
wheel if you don't
to
have
table it till the next meeting,
Yeah, we'll
so you
take-
get a chance to look at it.
Yeah.
And through the chair, this is something they have to do before they even start any process of.
Before any, yep.
I think
Oh,
that's
that'll be a
important.
switch. Anyways,
Yeah.
it's-
Yeah.
It's important.
And if I could just say that in speaking with Ms. Lunowitz, I did explain that the board would need, a couple of meetings at least to really take a look at this and decide if it fits and then how it might need to be modified and so forth.
We'll be working through the planning board also with this. It'll have to be a joint
Good idea.
thing, so.
Again, that's a great idea.
That's
That's a
all I
great
got.
idea.
Thank you. We have no correspondence, and before we get to town council, if the clerk wouldn't mind reading the meetings, invitations,
Oh,
and
sure.
reminders.
Oh, short list too, great. Western Mass Fire Chiefs Association Legislative Breakfast is on Friday, March 6th at 9 a.m. at the Log Cabin located in Holyoke. The Appropriations Committee and Board of Selectmen will have a joint meeting on Tuesday, March 10th at 6:30 at the Council of Aging, located at 328 North Main Street. The TEC Casino Traffic Study meeting is on March 16th to the 20th. Date and time and place to be determined. Board of Selectmen meeting on Tuesday, March 17th, 6 p.m., Town Hall Hearing Room. LCAT meeting will be on Wednesday, March 11th, at 10:30 a.m. at the LCAT studio located at 180 Maple Street. Cable Advisory Committee will be on Thursday, March 12th at 10:30 a.m., also at the LCAT studio. Regional Board of Selectmen meeting at Ludlow Town Hall at 488 Chapin Street. There's no date. I guess it's going to be determined. And those are your messages.
Thank you.
Through the board, I wasn't here last year, but that regional board of selectmen meeting, do we have that every year, or
We're supposed to.
we have?
We usually have it when Haley's Comet comes by. It's like once every 2 or 3 or 4 years, but I think the last one we had, Selectman Bronski was on the board, so how long ago was that? A couple of years?
Just here.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be every year, but it doesn't work out that way. It usually works out at least 2 or 3 years.
We can inform
Actually, we're
them.
supposed to have it quarterly,
Yeah,
aren't we?
because,
Quarterly, yeah, so,
yeah, it would have been, if it's in there, because I wasn't on the board then.
Right.
I haven't seen one yet.
Mr.
All right,
Chairman, if I
yes.
could just point out too that with going back to the legislative breakfast with the fire chief, I believe that the fire chief was looking for the board to respond to him.
okay. All right, I will do that. I think it's okay, but I just gotta check one thing. All right,
I'm going.
town council.
Yeah.
All right, sir.
No, I'm going.
All right, why don't we start out with the usual. Executive, which I assume will be 25.
I would say that item 25 involves a union grievance would be executive. The IBPO grievance would be executive, number 26. Number 27 is collective bargaining, which would be executive.
28.
28 is non-union collective bargaining, as is 29, which would be executive. 30 would be open But to discuss litigation strategies, it would be executive. And 31 is also collective bargaining matter, independent from ongoing negotiations, but as a result of requests for reviews under the union contract. So those all would be executive session.
Okay. So
And
if you
then
want-
the only other item that I believe would be executive session would be item 38,
okay,
which would, in that purpose, if that would be to discuss matters with counsel involving matters of attorney-client privilege. 38, with respect to how to procedures to follow,
okay.
or suggested procedures.
So if you're starting with item 24A, I believe, as usual, I have to leave the room.
Yes.
All right. Watertown.
To avoid the appearance of a conflict.
Yes, thank you.
Which one is that?
24A is the
24A.
elected health insurance official insurance.
Want me to start? I can start out. This item is about healthcare for elected officials. As Selectman Gorman has pointed out that for part-time people, they're not receiving benefits, and so he was wondering why are we receiving it. It was brought to us by the Appropriations Committee because right now we're paying $72,000 for a small group of elected officials. Should everyone, all of the elected officials decide to take on health insurance, it would be a big blow to our budget. And because of that uncertainty, they asked us to look at it. What I would like to propose, also in 32B, it says that we're able to have this, offer this health insurance as elected officials. What I would like to propose at this time, as a happy medium, is that we change the percentage from the town paying 30% and the employee paying the 70%, to having the 100% being paid by the employee being the elected official. And that way, it takes the uncertain.
Wait, not
Okay.
to interrupt you, Andy,
Sure.
but the town pays 70% and the employee pays 30.
Okay, so rather than have it that way, I apologize for misrepresenting that. Have it changed to where the employee pays 100%. This way, they would still get the benefit, and you would also have the opportunity to offer that to part-time people if they would like to have it. In order for that to happen, we would have to present a warrant article at town meeting for them to approve. And then after it's approved there, then it would go to our legislators, our state rep and our senator, to have it passed there. I was wondering if you were amendable to that, as opposed to getting rid of it altogether.
I'm not opposed to having them pay 100%,
Okay.
but I was informed that through legislation, they're trying to pass that right now.
I spoke to one of our legislators, and he,
Eric
What?
Lesser?
no, I spoke to Ms. Pupolo, State Rep. Pupolo. So if we can get those, if it's already in the works, then it could happen sooner than later.
Yeah, I'm all for letting them pay 100% and offering it to the 19-hour people also. I mean, it should be open to everybody, not just the elected official.
Right, and that's something that we could do, but we would have to draft that. Now,
We can do that.
We can do
We
that?
can do the language to submit it.
Yeah.
I mean, you may get some pushback from appropriations, because adding, I don't know how many part-time employees there are in the community, but your rates for your coverage are based on your claims.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
by adding a number of part-time employees plus their families, it could, and I'd say it would, but it could have a negative impact on the rates, and I don't know that, I know appropriations was concerned about, were concerned about
I
elected
did,
officials.
yeah, I did speak with appropriations and, a couple of their members. And their main concern, which I do understand, and I do get it, is that number of $72,000 could balloon should everybody decide that they were going to take the health insurance, and it was such a large variable. They have I believe, for the people that I spoke with, if it's 100% and we're paying the 100%, then that's fine with them. One other thing that I would like to say also, we would like to include in the language, should somebody retire, that they would still continue to pay the 100%. And that way, it still eliminates the liability for the town.
So that would be retirees, part-time.
For new
Part-time
retirees.
employees and elected officials who would be, if legislation were passed requiring them to pay 100% of the health insurance coverage, if either of those two groups of people were to retire, they would retire and still be required to pay the 100% and not the normal retirees rate.
Right, and this would be for new people.
Okay.
That way they still could get on a group insurance, you know?
They're still getting the group rate.
You know what I mean, a group rate.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Better than nothing. I think it's better than nothing.
It's not open to the public, otherwise I would speak.
Can we let him speak? Do you have any objections to the audience weighing in? Do you have any objections to the audience speaking?
It's your board.
I would,
As a group plan,
yes.
I can get that through the Home Builders Association. As an elected official, I was elected 3 years ago, we were given a benefit.
Mhm.
Now, basically, you're trying to take it away in the middle of my term. I don't think that's fair.
Mhm.
There are 8 out of 21 elected officials that take this.
Mhm.
You're not looking a lot. Have you gone back over the last 10 years and seen what the average was?
Mhm.
I mean, I've talked to the benefits administrator.
Mhm.
There are other options that could save the town quite a bit more money. It
Mhm.
seems like right now you're looking at 8 people and you're trying to save on the back of 8 people. 8 people that were elected. You're
Mhm.
calling us part-time.
Mhm.
I gotta tell you, I don't feel part-time. I don't think either of you feel part-time.
I agree.
You're called at all hours of the night.
Mhm.
When you're out, whether it be at the store shopping or whatever,
Mhm.
people are constantly coming up to you asking for your thoughts, your opinions.
Mhm.
You're
And
being
we signed
yelled
up
at
for that,
doing
yeah.
stuff.
Mhm.
I mean,
But what you fail to understand, Ralph, it's on the back of 8 people, but the town cannot afford it no more.
I would
And you're on the
respectfully
back-
disagree
You're
with
on the
you.
back of the town, and the appropriation committee unanimously, except for one person, voted to do that.
I would respectfully disagree with you when you're talking $70,000.
Well,
Now, and the reason being is we just put $325,000 into tennis courts. We recently put $1.2 million into a synthetic field. What you're talking about
which I
is
didn't
8,
vote for.
you're talking about 8 citizens that are literally busting their butt for this town. I'm on 4 different boards. I'm on the planning board. I'm on community preservation. I mean, I can go on and on. I can go multiple people. And in all honesty,
Well, let me
to
ask
turn
you-
around and say, hey,
let me ask you a
you pay them
question, Ralph.
100%, I'm simply saying
Yeah.
straight
asked for
out,
your
I
opinion.
disagree.
Mhm.
Obviously, I don't really have a say in this. It comes
Yeah.
down to 2 people.
Yeah.
Um,
And
And then it comes down to a town vote.
Right, and I understand what you're saying, Mr. Page. But given that the stalemate being that you have nothing and we cut it out altogether versus still supplying the opportunity to have it, I understand what you're saying. Yes, it was a benefit. You're still getting the benefit. It's just you're gonna have to pay for the
I would
benefit.
consider receiving $800 a year as a stipend
Mm-hmm.
and being allowed to go on a health care plan. I don't believe paying 100% is a benefit. My opinion,
Yeah,
and you know what, I have a right to my own. And
Yeah,
absolutely.
you don't.
I'm
But I have a right to mine too, and let me ask you something, Ralph. I probably put in the most hours of anybody as an elected official. I probably put in
Again,
40,
I
I
disagree
probably,
with you, but-
no, she'll agree with me. I put in probably 40 hours there. And I make $38 a week for being an elected official, but I chose to run. Nobody broke my arm, and I didn't run just for the insurance. I ran to help the taxpayers. And it seems like some elected officials are staying on for the insurance, and it's totally wrong, and the taxpayers shouldn't have to foot the bill. There's plenty of insurance people can get, Obamacare and all the rest of the stuff. So why should the taxpayer foot the bill for part-time people? There isn't a business around that will pay people's health insurance a part-time for part-time, not one.
I think you're getting confused, an elected official and a part-time employee.
No, I'm not confused
I
at all.
believe you are, because they're two completely separate things. We won't go into the
Yeah.
state law and all, but they're two completely, totally separate things. I mean, when the town voted in 32B, they basically
Right.
said that, you know what, we understand what you have to go through, and this is why we're gonna give this benefit to you. That was in 1960, 59? 1959. Fast
And it's-
forward, what, 60 years, and all of a sudden you're saying that, you know what, I know all the time you put in, but we're not gonna give you
Because
that.
things were a lot better back then, Ralph. Times are hard right now for people.
You're gonna say things were better in
And it is for the
1959?
town.
Oh,
And the reason some of the stuff passes, because people don't know how to shake their head no at town meeting, and they're gonna be in trouble if they don't learn to. And one of them that the appropriation brought up was meal tax, disinsurance, and insurance for the people, which we're trying to do something different with. Because they can't afford it. But some of you people don't seem to understand,
oh,
the money doesn't come off trees. You can't, they
actually,
can't afford
I
it.
do understand that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think so.
I believe if you look at other counties, the stipend that they give for their elected officials is a lot more than your $800 that you're receiving here.
There's a lot of people, Ralph, that put in a lot
I
more
mean-
time than they're getting paid for. A
You're-
lot of people.
You're
And they
sitting
don't
here
get insurance.
discussing
Yeah.
a human resource department. You're looking at taking a health agent and doubling their pay and then turning it into a full-time position. We had a part-time health agent for how many years that did a fine job? I just.
No, I
So-
beg to differ with you. Since I've been a liaison for them, they didn't do a good job. Because what I'm finding out, all they did was put out fires. There's places we never even inspected for the last 10 years that we're finding out. People never saw a health agent there.
As a-
We could be in deep trouble in this town if someone gets sick in one of these eating establishments and they find out that our health agent never been in there to even inspect the place.
As a point of order, I'm gonna bring it back to the health, the health
Yep.
issue. We kinda got off on a tangent. Is there anybody else in the audience, because we did open it, is there anybody else that would like to?
Robert Adams, East Long Meadow.
Yes.
I don't understand why we're dickering here. I thought originally we talked about the existing elected officials, about their health insurance.
Yes.
Why are we bringing part-time people in?
The-
Part-time people have a contract now and they understand what their job is.
Mm-hmm.
If you two agree that the elected officials, the existing elected officials, this doesn't hurt the people that are retired or grandfathered. These are the original, the people that are elected now.
Currently, yeah. Mhm.
They're gonna be offered insurance of the town, whatever, Blue Cross, home healthcare, whatever, at whatever the rate is, they're gonna pay for their own insurance. I see no problem with that, because I disagree with this gentleman here. I put in 69 to 72 hours a week for 23 years. I worked 44 and a half years for the town of East Long Meadow. Since I retired, I'm spending over $250 more a month between my insurance and everything else, because the town has to adjust their policies. Rates go up. And I just totally disagree with this gentleman saying. He ran for office. I don't care if he's got 4 positions. That's his choice. He wants to do something for the town.
Well, I
And
don't.
I'm just sick of hearing elected officials keep crying, oh, no, I spend this time, that time. They all did, for years. There's a lot of elected officials here that did a lot of good for the town and never got no recognition for it. So I think the issue is tonight, are you going to support the elected officials, the existing, insurance or no insurance? One way or another. Get the
Okay.
part-time out of there, get out the kindergarten and all that stuff.
Well, the reason, wait a
Go
minute, I
ahead.
want to make sure you finish.
Yep,
Okay.
go ahead.
The reason that I brought in the part-time was because when Selectman Gorman was
Right.
speaking, he was saying that if we're going to offer any insurance to anybody, it's either everybody or nobody. So this way, by offering the 100%, if everybody's paying 100%, you can offer it to the part-time. That addresses his concern.
Right.
And it doesn't cost our town. There's no
Well-
effect on our budget for them to be paying the 100%. And so that's why that's what my proposal was, and that's why it was in
I
there.
understand what you're saying, but there's still a cost. We still have staff that gotta do the paperwork, gotta do the procedures and notify these people. So there is a cost. And I understand that you're trying to save money and we're trying to do this and that. But the bottom line is, the issue was elected officials, and that's where it should stay. The existing elected officials, either no insurance or they're allowed to buy our insurance, whatever rate that we get for whatever policy they pick.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
your time.
Yes.
But I'd also like to say, I got a list right here of everybody that gets the insurance. We have people here that can't even pay their portion.
Okay, that's another.
No,
Okay.
wait a minute. They can't even pay their portion of the insurance they're getting. And if my insurance that I pay for, my health insurance, if I'm a month late, they'll send me a notice and cancel me. We got some of these people we're carrying for 4 months, which is totally wrong.
Then you're right.
I agree.
Terminate them.
I agree. If we can hear from Marilyn Micheline, and then perhaps we can put it to a vote?
Yep.
Okay, yes.
You know, having sat on your board, I understand exactly what you're dealing with, because even back when Larry and I were on the Board of Selectmen, we were always looking at ways to save money for the town. Just a few comments, have you considered potentially grandfathering those 8 elected officials that are currently receiving benefits and moving forward, since that was part of the contract, so to speak, that they entered into when they got elected and accepted the benefit? Chapter 32B looks at employees' eligibility based on if you're hired by a municipality and if you're compensated. Elected officials, if you're compensated, you're eligible for insurance regardless of the number of hours that you work. They're treated as an exempt group rather than part-time elected officials, because the statute, I perceive that this is how I understood it, the statute looks at elected officials who are in a category of serving the town, whatever comes up, you know, during their term of office, and they are considered eligible employees regardless of the number of hours that they work. That being said, addressing what Mr. Adams just talked about, opening it up to part-timers, there is a risk to increasing your insurance pool, your experience rates. The more people, and I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but this is something that needs to be thought about. And I believe that someone from the Appropriations Committee may have mentioned this at the last meeting that you weren't at. The more people that are in, even though they're paying 100% of the premium, there is the potential that they may impact, all these additional people would impact the experience rating of a group that's being insured. And that might create some substantial healthcare costs too. That may drive premiums up, because it depends on how healthy the group is that you're inviting to participate. So, it's a catch-22. But by opening it up to a group that you normally wouldn't have covered, that may impact the experience rating of the community. So I just thought I'd put that.
Thank you. If there were an increase, that would be on the individuals who are paying. They would pay that increase. Is that
Right,
correct?
but-
Okay.
but
So it wouldn't be on the
depending
town.
If you, just for the sake of
Yes,
discussion,
sure.
if you open it up to, 25 people took advantage of it, and half of those people have, substantial health issues that require, or family plans that, with different kinds of issues. And I'm not saying that they don't deserve health care. I'm just saying that those changes could impact on the experience rating of a community, and it may have an impact on the underlying premiums.
But us paying $72,000 for people that have businesses and have people working for them, Marilyn,
Well,
they have insurance for their people in the business, but,
No, we don't.
let me finish.
We don't.
But it's good enough for their people, but not good enough for them. So what do? They depend on East Long Meadow to foot their bill for their insurance, and I think it's totally wrong.
You're misspeaking. We do not have health insurance.
I didn't
for
say,
my
I didn't say you, I
I
said
do.
some of the people.
Just to clarify.
Exactly, and
Okay.
I'm one of those people that you're talking
Po-
about.
Point of,
Thank you for letting
okay,
me-
thank you. Point of clarification from our attorney, please.
Just to clarify, Selectman Thorpe, your question, what Ms. Richards is saying is what I tried to say earlier, that when you increase your pool of members covered by the insurance, the rating for what your premiums are going to be for that year are based on the claims that are made by the whole pool of employees. So if you were to add, let's say you were to put me on your health insurance, and I had a massive heart attack and needed a heart transplant or a bypass, that might cost you $150,000 under the cost of the plan. I would pay 100% of the premium, but I wouldn't pay 100% of the increased cost to the whole plan for that additional cost. So
Okay.
there's a potential, I'm not saying
For
there
other
is, but
folks
there's the
there.
potential impact to the
Cost.
cost to the town and to the other employees because of the claims that might be made. And it may be that none of the part-time people would have it, but that's how the rating for insurance works. And that was just a point I think that Ms. Richards was trying to make. The more people you bring in, depending on their health level and the level of their family's health,
Yeah.
even though they pay 100%, it still could end up costing the community more money. But if they're healthy, it's going to cost them less.
Selectman Gorman, with that information, sometimes we have to take baby steps. Would you be open to the 100% for the elected officials, and then revisiting, possibly adding on the part-timers, where we can figure out how the staff?
No, after listening to Mr. Donahue, I think we shouldn't revisit anything. I think we should just go with the 100% and.
100% for, and include the
officials,
part-time,
if
just
they-
the elected officials?
Right.
Okay, then that's
If they
where,
want the insurance, let them pay 100%,
okay, so, all right, and no part-time?
no part.
Okay, got it. So I will make the motion that we, one moment, please, I'm sorry. How many part-timers do we have? That's all right. We'll revisit it at another, I just think, just so we can get this going. Oh, oh, got you, for about,
I mean,
okay.
if
About 400? About between 2 to 400. Okay. So 2 to 400 is a significant increase in, as far as insurance, people adding to insurance, excuse me, Attorney Donahue. 2 to 400 people. Is that a substantial number to be added to an insurance base? Since
That's a,
we have 1,000 right now, 1,089, so that's,
so that would be a third
That's almost
to-
half.
To, to almost a half of your existing base. If it's 2, it's 20%. If it's 400, it's 40%
okay.
adding. And that is
Okay.
employees not without their families.
Right,
So you could be doubling.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean,
Okay.
if you're going to do that, it's a decision that really needs to be looked at in some depth. And here,
Okay.
you know, with the elected officials, you're talking, you know the number of elected officials
Okay.
potentially, but the employees and the family numbers, the impact, and you really probably would need some actuarial numbers, or at least to have appropriations look at it before, try to add that many people onto the plan.
And it will definitely affect it, because I studied the insurance for 5 years with the phone company for the union, and it will have an effect on it, that many people.
Right.
okay. All right, so I will make a motion that we increase the premiums for elected officials to 100%. Effective date, can we do a year out? As opposed to not having it this year, but next year? Or you want it now?
I'd say during the town meeting, right before the town meeting.
Okay,
Well, I
To-
think the motion would be to put a warrant article, to request that a warrant article go into the May town meeting, requesting legislation authorizing the town to charge elected officials 100% of the premium cost for coverage if they choose to be under the town's
under the
plan,
town.
and to take effect upon passage, but there's or just to take effect, when it's passed, you can then implement it once it's available to be done.
What is it?
So moved.
I moved it, you're seconding it.
Second.
Is there a second? Is there any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, so that ends that. So we'll put together the warrant. We'll bring it towards, the plan is to bring it to town meeting, and then from town meeting to, if it passes at town meeting, to bring it to our legislators to see.
You got that article, don't you, Nick, that I gave you for the town meeting?
I do. So, just to explain, that warrant article, petition warrant article has been submitted with a similar intent. It's my understanding at this point, if the clerk verifies or the registrar verifies, it will be on the warrant as well.
Now, what was your warrant article?
Same thing.
Oh, same.
Similar intent,
Similar intent?
yes,
But that's not the same thing, so,
right.
okay.
I don't remember if there was anything in there about part-time or anything with the discussion. I don't think so, but.
Okay.
It's the draft I got from you, Mr. Dunham.
Okay. So we can call Paul back in. Yes,
Can I, excuse me, can I just add my 2 cents?
absolutely. Go ahead and take a nickel.
I would not like this town to be short-sighted. I'm a retiree, so I don't have to worry. But if I were an elected official, and despite some previous comments, I know of no elected official in this town who takes their position lightly
Yeah.
and works their butt off.
Oh, yeah.
I would suggest you think about whether you want to grandfather existing elected officials. So someone who's newly elected to office comes into office knowing that's a consequence. I think for fairness, to take away a benefit, regardless of your view of whether you think it's proper, if someone can get health insurance somewhere else, person came into the office knowing they could get it, and took advantage of it. Those are my thoughts.
Okay. May I ask a question? Is that, just a quick question? So the people who aren't participating, if we were to grandfather, you're talking about just the people who are already enrolled?
You mean of the 8 to
Of the-
20?
Of the 21,
You
because,
have to probably establish a cutoff date.
yeah,
What would
because,
you establish? You would establish as of now,
yeah,
but I think you should consider some mechanism to grandfather those, at least those who are taking advantage of it.
Why should we grandfather that the people that are here now, and then the new people coming in bunch them?
Because-
We should just end it completely. Because I'm a guy that ran for office without the insurance, and I don't get it, and Angela
That's your
Thorpe
choice.
does not get it.
That's your choice.
Well,
But these
because we have
people-
other places we can get it, just like everybody can.
Because these people, these 8 people we're talking about,
right, the 8 people.
were elected.
You might want to
And
leave
at that
again.
time, they knew,
Sorry,
and they accepted the health insurance.
right,
On that premise, now you're saying, we don't care what you were told or what you accepted. We're going to take that away from you.
What you don't understand,
Well-
and you're a lawyer, so you should, the town cannot afford it no more.
Please,
They cannot afford it. That's $72,000 that we could be using for a human resource, for a health agent, for somebody else that's working 37 and a half hours a week.
Please don't lecture me on what I understand or don't
Okay.
understand.
I am lecturing you. I got my
You
point
don't have the
of view
right to
too.
do that, sir.
You lecture
I'm
me and
giving,
we'll
no, I'm
lecture you
not
back.
lecturing, I'm giving you a suggestion.
And I'm giving you a suggestion.
Okay.
What
Don't
we're
tell
gonna
me
do.
what I understand. and
Because we already voted on it.
I'm just, you can amend your article up until the floor.
I'm not amending it.
That's your position. You're only one person on the
That's, you're
board.
exactly right.
Exactly.
That's why the people elected me.
You're one of 3.
That's right.
Well, I can just ask you the question. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't going to be liable or have that variable that the appropriations was concerned about. If we do that, then we could go from 8 to 21. And if you're just talking about those 8 people to
Mhm.
grandfather them,
Mhm.
that you could consider, but I think to open it up to people who aren't already in the system, I think that could open us up to
I can
financial
understand.
liability.
I can
And so
understand.
that's that would be a concern for me. So,
Please remember, you are also in charge of your own article,
understood.
okay?
Yeah.
You get the input from appropriations, but you people make the
The
decision.
board, we make the decision on our article, okay.
Best
Okay.
of luck.
And it was unanimous on the appropriation board,
You just said that one
do away
person
with it.
wasn't unanimous.
except for one person.
Then that's not unanimous, at
99%.
least in my dictionary.
99%.
Whatever
99%.
whatever the case. They're still an advisory board.
Right,
This Board of Selectmen makes the final decision on what article you present and
Mhm.
how you present.
okay.
Best of luck.
Thank you for your input.
Thank you for letting us know.
No problem. We're in this together. We really are. I think, you okay over there, Billy?
Huh?
You okay?
No, I'm not okay. Because some of these people are in this for itself. We got one of these people here that hasn't paid their
We can't
part
talk,
of
we can't
the,
talk about it because,
well, hasn't
Yeah.
paid their part of the thing
can I
either.
see that, by the way?
Yeah, you sure. Matter of fact, I'll give you a copy.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
All right. Next item, I believe, Nick, is a health plan change. Healthcare plan, change design, whatever it is.
Yep, want to let the board know that it's underway, and the first meeting was held with the IAC. The next meeting is scheduled with the Public Employee Committee for next Wednesday, the 11th at 3 o'clock. And that'll start the 30-day period for the negotiations.
Okay, thanks. Let's see, we have, I believe the next item is the draft of the mutual aid proposal from the police chief.
This is a statewide, basically a statewide document that's here. And one of the issues that exists with respect to, at least that I have, with respect to this agreement is, and I don't know if you have it in front of you, but in section 2, H is a definition, and the definition is entitled self-activation. And what it provides, if you sign this agreement the way it's drafted, that in the exercise of police powers within the territorial limits of any party, and that would be anybody who signs this agreement, by any police officer regularly employed as such by any other party, so that's any other community that signed this agreement, could be somebody in Greenfield. Under the terms of this agreement is in the absence of an official request. So what they're saying is, if I'm a police officer and I belong and I'm employed by a community that has signed this agreement, and I am in the town of East Long Meadow, I have the authority to use my police powers to arrest or to take whatever appropriate action is necessary. The concern is that, unlike the request for mutual aid where you ask Springfield or Greenfield or Pittsfield to send officers, and they come down and you know they're here and they're under the control of whoever the local supervisor is, if I have a police officer who's just here visiting or driving through and he sees an incident occurring, he doesn't have the authority without this agreement to arrest or to take any action officially to stop what he sees or to investigate anything. With this as self-activation, he would have the authority to act even though the local department has no knowledge that he's in the community or taking any action. And I think that's something you need to be leery about. It's one thing to call for assistance when you know you need help and you know who's coming and you know who you have to direct and control. But to have police officers who happen to be in your community who see something that they think might be a crime and to take, or to some action that needs them to respond, and for them to take their action without the department knowing what's going on, it's a concern. And I have talked with the chief, expressed my concerns. He recognizes them, and I think this agreement as is drafted should be looked at very hard to take out the language that deals with self-activation unless you're comfortable with it and think it's appropriate.
Go ahead.
But I thought a police officer was on duty 24/7.
That's what I was gonna ask,
Even
yeah.
if he was in another area, and if he saw an incident happen, and he didn't do nothing about it, he could
No.
be up a
No.
tree.
He is in his own community. He is in his own
But not in
community.
another community.
Or if he is in hot pursuit, leaving his community, going into
Yeah.
another community, his powers stay in effect. But if he is not authorized to act in a neighboring community or in another community in the state, he has no more rights to arrest or to take police action than any other citizen.
So if I'm a police officer, Jim, and I go to Springfield, and I'm with my family, and I see a robbery going on where I could stop it, I have no authority to do that.
Correct.
So in this scenario, their option would be to contact the local police? Okay.
Correct.
So now you said you spoke with the chief and he knows the concerns, and are they going to work on getting something changed, the language changed or?
The chief has had discussions about it. I mean, I don't want to speak for him. I actually thought he was going to be here at this
No, he's
meeting.
out of
and I
town.
didn't know he was going to be out of town. But, I mean, those are the concerns that I have with the agreement. I think that perhaps you should hear from the chief as to how
Okay.
he thinks it should operate within the community. It's just bothersome to me as legal counsel that I have someone exercising police powers in the community that I have no control over,
Mhm.
or don't know that they're even doing it.
Right.
You know, it's a huge difference if I ask for Springfield police officers to come in, but just to have them in here and making a traffic stop or, knocking on a door saying we think you're committing some type of I mean, not that that would happen,
But
but
it
the
could.
possibility exists where it doesn't exist without that language in here.
And if, say there was an out-of-town police officer here and they performed some police function or an arrest or whatever, and found out that they violated the rights of the townsperson, say, would that fall back on us as far as any?
Under the terms of the self-activation language, I don't believe it would.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying that somebody wouldn't make the claim
Mhm.
that it falls back, but I think the way this agreement is drafted, the sending party is the one who's responsible for their people. But the question with that is, it's not clear in here
They're not
where
necessarily-
self-activation.
They're not being sent necessarily.
Right, they're here on their own.
Right.
They haven't been directed by their supervisors, or have they been requested by local authorities to be here? And that's the real concern to me, that you've got an officer who's, I'm not ditching officers, I think that they'll do great jobs,
Right.
but not knowing that they're here in your community
Right.
doing something. I mean, you could get a call from a neighbor saying someone's harassing my neighbor, and turn out you send your own police over to intercept a situation where you've got an officer you don't know is here doing something.
Right.
Yeah.
But in any event, those are my concerns, but I think the chief, since he would have to administer this under your authority, could address some of the concerns or questions that he may have with respect to this. I know there has been language about taking that language out. I don't know the impact or what the response has been from the state group that oversees this agreement as to what the changes in this would do.
Mhm.
Arguably, if you took that language out, we'd need to get every other signatory to the agreement to agree that it, as far
Right.
as it applies, doesn't apply to East Long Meadow for that purpose.
All right, the next item is the senior work-off update.
Do we have to vote or anything on that?
Not as
It's a
it
first
stands,
read.
yeah, it's a first read. We don't want, with that language in there, we don't really want to commit to it at this time. Hopefully, they'll try to change it, and
Okay,
we gotta rely on him.
so I got that big shoulder.
That's right.
The senior work update, there's a request from the assessors that I have here to increase the amount of people who are eligible for it, and also to increase the amount of money that can be credited toward the tax bill. There's also an eligibility programs guidelines that I assume, but I don't recall the Board of Selectmen adopted, because it's really, it would be under your jurisdiction to adopt the program for the work qualification. At this point, I believe you can cap the benefit at a maximum of $1,000, or, and the assessors are asking for $1,100, or with a town meeting vote, you can cap the amount that can be received to 125 hours.
Mhm.
So it's confusing in the sense that in one section of the statute, they talk about a dollar limit, and then in the next section, they talk about an hour limit, and they're not related at all.
Right.
They're two separate things. So if you were to desire to increase the amount to the 1,100 amount, then I think you would need to submit an article to the town meeting to increase the number of hours that the benefit can be provided to work, senior volunteer workers to 125 hours. And so not knowing where everybody stands on this, you might want to put an article in there, or have Nick save space for an article that raises the senior work limit to the 125-hour amount, because it's only the maximum. You can go anywhere under that 125
Right,
if
right.
you want to.
Okay.
But, through the board,
Yep.
didn't that have something to do with the money, because the minimum wage goes up every year? So we didn't know whether we had enough money to cover that or not?
I don't think so. I think it was, I don't know the thought process, but it appears that there was they wanted to increase the total that you could get to. I mean, the minimum wage going up, all it does is reduce the number of hours that
Number of
people have
hours,
to
right,
work
yeah,
to get to
exactly,
it.
yeah.
I think they may have thought that the taxes were going up and they would increase the number, but not put a dollar amount in and put an hour amount, sort of to catch the minimum wage without having to come in and change it all the time. So that might be the reason they went with the maximum hours of 125.
Can I ask a stupid question, which it seems
No
like it
question's
better...
ever stupid, just the person asking it.
That's what my professor said at Western New England. No stupid questions, just the people asking them. Very good. So,
You could fire me now.
no, it's okay. We need you. So we're getting, let's say for argument's sake, you're getting $1,000 benefit from your property tax. You're getting $1,000 abatement from your property tax. This is done by earning this money. So why don't we just have them work X number of hours and abate the $1,000 instead of working X number of hours, being responsible for payroll taxes? You know what I mean? I mean, we're actually paying more than $1,000 to get the benefit of the $1,000 for the taxpayer.
Because the problem is that the state statute that put in this program exempted the credit that these people earn for the hours that they put in from state tax.
Right, I saw that, yeah.
But it's still compensation for work that's done and qualifies as income federally. So it's the federal income tax
Right.
arm that triggers
Okay.
the additional money that has to be paid.
All right.
Because all they do really get, they don't get any money.
Right.
They earn the credits, the credit is applied to their tax rate, and then the town has to pay
Because they're
whatever the portion of the
Social Security and Medicare and,
withhold, yeah,
yeah,
On their
withholding and the other.
Through the chair.
yeah,
On their income tax, do they have to show that as income?
yes,
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
They do.
So they're really not getting,
They're not getting the full, they're not getting the full
Full,
credit
yeah.
of $1,000, or if that's what you're
Right,
thinking.
yeah.
But from what I read, the federal tax withheld isn't part of their, unless I read it wrong, the federal tax that's withheld isn't part of what they're getting the credit for.
No, we think we're paying that as an action. I think the town is actually,
All right.
I'm not sure of this.
Yeah, I think you're
I'm not
right.
a numbers guy, but I think the town, part of the appropriation for this
Yep.
somewhere
All right.
is monies to,
So the town is effectively grossing up that $1,000 by Social Security, federal tax, and, okay.
Medicaid. Yes,
All right.
that's my understanding. When you read the materials here, the way it's structured, that's what's
Okay.
happening.
Okay. All right. Next item is a charter license renewal application.
I didn't have any, I think that's just to renew, the
Yes.
application forms come in.
Right.
Want to just report that that came in, and there's an office copy. If the board wants to take a look, copy sent out to the Cable Advisory Committee, copy already made
Okay,
for review.
all right. Next item is Ramito and Sons. No update?
No update, there's nothing for me to
All right.
report to the board.
Nadim's? Same thing?
Same thing.
Okay.
Nothing in the packet. So I would suggest, if you don't have anything shortly before the next meeting, to,
are we giving her a time limit, bring that stuff in?
No, it wasn't her, it was the Pride people. Remember, they were the ones who were supposed to get the
Oh,
liquor
yeah,
transfer,
yeah.
yeah, so they're the ones who are supposed to come to us.
So what's happening in their license? I mean, they're not even bothering with us?
well, yeah, if they're not bothering with it, then you're gonna have to make a decision whether it's gonna sit there unused,
Which
or
will get
whether
their
it's gonna come
attention.
back to the town to be
Yeah,
reissued. So, I mean, that's why I'd be surprised that Pride would let that go.
But
Yeah.
right now, they're using that license.
Well,
I
they're
don't
not.
think they're
no,
open.
Yeah, they're not used, that's a full liquor license.
Ramitos?
Well, Ramito's is
I don't think
open.
Ramito's is pouring.
No, they're not pouring, but
No.
they're open, but they're not serving alcohol, right? They're serving alcohol?
Ramito's Restaurant is just beer and wine, right? And the gas station.
No, Ramito's is a full liquor license.
It is a full liquor?
Yeah, I remember back when John was running it, they had that little,
Oh.
They're a little
thing with all
I
the
was
big
in there
bottles
Christmas
and,
time, they were drinking.
okay.
Oh,
Oh, I was in there when this first came up, back
Yeah.
in mid-January to look at it, and I'll tell you, then, it was during the day, it was on 4 o'clock, but
Yeah.
it didn't look like, they had alcohol there, but there was no mechanism for anyone there to serve it
Serve
or
it,
do
okay.
anything,
Well,
but
I mean,
they
I
shouldn't
think-
be serving.
Yeah, I think the last meeting, Jim, you gave a good explanation to her on what they had to do, and if they didn't do it, what would happen.
Yeah.
And we have heard nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking if you give them till their next meeting, if it doesn't come in, then you take the appropriate action to do
Okay.
it.
That's what I think, too.
All right.
do we want to send a letter before then?
I
Just a
would
little-
suggest you send a follow-up saying
Follow-up
it's,
letter?
you know,
Should we send it to Pride, or should we send it to
Yeah, Pride.
Ramito's?
I sent it to Ramito's Copy Pride so they know.
Okay.
But I
Alright.
think Ramito's is really the person you're concerned about.
Yeah, okay,
And same thing with Nadim.
yeah, all right. Because everybody's working on it.
The problem is they
Well,
still
they
leave,
are.
they still leave you hanging, that's the problem.
Yeah, I know it.
Right?
All right, 40 Waterman Avenue?
Yes, I received some property record cards, and I don't know what other paperwork, not very much more than property record cards, but I received it this evening, just before I came to the meeting. I have not had a chance to really look at it to see how it applies, and I have a couple of questions for
Okay.
the principal assessor as to what's transpired with
Okay.
respect to that.
So we'll
I
pull
will
that
have
off.
an answer for you hopefully on 40 Waterman at your next
This is
meeting.
what I was paying, he think, on the 2,700 square feet?
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Is it 36 or 40 Waterman Avenue?
Because, you know, Jim, I have some information on that. If it'll help you, I get everything on that case.
Because does he live at 36 now?
Well, he sold the house.
Oh, okay. So he must live at 36 now.
Yeah, because it's
Okay.
36, and it says
That's why I
re-
was trying to figure that out.
He built a house.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Had it for a few years. I don't think he ever lived there, and then sold it. And then once and he complained in some fashion, I don't know how, about the assessment saying it was too high. And then after it was sold, the assessment was reduced. And,
He was paying on 3,250 square feet.
Right.
He was paying on. He complained about it and went to them. They reduced it to 3,150 square feet. The house is only 2,700 square feet. And his complaint is they didn't bring it down enough.
right,
So now they're telling me that he went over the statute of limitation, which is no fault of his own, because he tried to get it reduced, but they wouldn't reduce it to what the house actually was. So in 2002, the house was built and was sold in 2009, and the new owner that took over, they're charging him for 2,700 square feet, what is, and the house didn't shrink since he sold it. So that's originally what the guy wanted, 2,700 square feet, which is what the house is, but they wouldn't bring it down to that.
right.
we're dealing with logic here, so that's, you gotta
I
allow.
mean,
so-
You know, if that was me, I'd be a little perturbed, so he figured that he lost, you know, and for what taxes are today,
Yeah, well, 500 square feet a year times how
yeah,
many years?
he figured he lost $4,000 along the way, and
Well, it looks for the
he
property
don't
record.
want the money, he just wants it applied
polish.
to, I mean, here's the taxes that the guy paid right there.
Oh, since then, since it was sold.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
I mean, maybe to some people that's not a lot of money, but it's a lot to me. I'd be a little disturbed if I only had a 2,700 square foot house and I was paying on 3,150.
The house, though, I think was built, according to the record cards, it wasn't completed until, I think, 2005 or
Yeah,
2006.
it took a while from get it
To
done.
get it done. But in any event, I need to, the issue that I need to answer, I need to get answered from the assessors, is really what transpired under the abatement procedures. What did he do? And if they granted him an abatement or they denied him an abatement and he took no appeal of that, then there is no more appeal because the statute of limitations would have run. And it's a short statute, but I don't have it, I don't know at this point. I just have property record cards in the packet that I have. So I don't know what the history with respect to the filing of abatement or the results were. So, and I need that to report to the board to answer your question.
See, my understanding, Jim, talking to the guy, they gave him a runaround, and it lasted so long, it went past that limitation. In which he started it before that limitation, but they just never did what they should have done for him, and just taxed him for 2,750 square feet.
Yeah.
They brought it down to 31, but, I mean, it's wrong what they did as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I need that information
Yes.
to report to the board, whether I think that there was anything incorrect on it, the point that, or anything, actually, it's not anything, it's whether there's anything that could be done to correct the situation. And I don't have the information, and I apologize for that, but I just didn't receive it until,
Yeah.
what I have, I didn't receive it until tonight when I walked in here.
Yeah, we can take it up next time. Now we got, under new business, which, we got the fire department non-emergency requests, which.
Yeah,
I
this
think
was,
is-
I worked with the chief. He had a situation where he had a property owner who.
Wanted their vents cleaned?
Yeah, and called 2 or 3 times to do it in a non-emergency situation, just to get the snow away from the vents and different things. And his response to her, in the letter we revised, was just advising her that the department will respond to these situations when it's an emergency situation, but that the department is not in the business of going out and providing regular, everyday services that you could get from a private business or from your family member or something to clean these, that's not their responsibility, although they sympathize with it. But in a non-emergency situation, they were not going to be doing that, because if in the event an emergency occurred, they would have a problem. So that was the letter that he sent.
Yeah, what was that incident they went out, that was non-emergency?
So what?
That incident they went out on was non-emergency?
Yes. They've gone out 3 or 4 times for non-emergency to clear the vents for this woman. It becomes sort of almost a matter of, I need my vents cleaned, I'll call the fire department.
Yeah, I mean, it's like an alarm, if your alarm goes off all the time, after a one time, they charge you a fee to come out.
Right.
For what it costs for fuel and the time and paying everybody, you know?
Yeah, I think his concern more is that the fees, that's one way to address it, but establish a rule and regulation or set up a fee for those types of situations. But I think he doesn't want to get into the business of, if you do it for one person, you got to do it for 50.
Yep.
And he doesn't have the staff to do it.
Because why I say that, Jim, twice in 2 days, the fire department came out by my house. And the people,
Is that the name on it?
no, it wasn't me. And they had 2 situations where the people's alarm went off, and one sitting in the driveway listening to that thing go off. And the other person wasn't home, and water coming in through the ceiling caused the thing to go off.
Right.
But they couldn't get access to the house.
There are,
So they couldn't break into the house because there was no smoke or nothing. And
right, they didn't have any reason, they didn't know what the cause was, so they couldn't do anything.
we already went through that one time.
Well, if that becomes a problem for the chief, alarms that are being set off because the property owners aren't maintaining their circumstances appropriately, there are penalties that some communities have drafted. I did it in West Springfield when I was counsel out there. Costco had a situation where birds get in through the
Yeah.
doors,
Mhm.
and they have sensors,
Yeah.
motion sensors, and and the birds would set off the motion sensors, and the fire department or the police would have to come down. They come down, 3-4 times a month. And finally, the city said, look, if you can't take care of the birds, they adopted a policy that said, if we're gonna we get more than 2 or 3 false alarms in a given period of time, we're gonna bill you for the cost of
Yeah.
sending our people down.
Yep.
So, but if it becomes a situation, there are mechanisms that we can put in place to do it, but, most homeowners are not gonna have more than 2 or 3 a year anyway, generally. They're pretty good. We hope.
Yeah.
The public records request, that's just a request from a local attorney's office in the city for some records involving communications between Charter Communications and some of their employees and the city or the town regarding outages resulting from natural events such as Hurricane Sandy and the tornado and that huge snowstorm that we had. It's really just a matter, we should respond to it to the extent that we have it.
Okay. And then last on this one is capital planning.
I got the sheet, but I don't really know what this is all about.
I wanted to bring this up to the board's attention, that under it's really sort of it's a budget matter, really. And what you were looking at there is a time sheet from August until December for clerical services that were performed by an individual who now works in the Board of Selectmen's office for the Capital Planning Committee. Recall that the Board of Selectmen some years ago established a clerical position for the Capital Planning Committee. Prior to that, had established a clerical position for the Appropriations Committee. Had opened up the position to people who worked for departments under the Board of Selectmen's jurisdiction, with the idea that the payment, if you will, for such work would come in the form of comp time. Labor Council had subsequently advised that comp time could be used, but that in the case of individuals who wish to be paid, they needed to be paid cash, paid wages. And so this is an informing the board that I've received this request. This was not money that was in the budget that was submitted. There was a discussion. Recall the timing of when the individual was hired. It was after budgets had been submitted. A discussion was had by me with the Appropriations Committee during the last budget cycle that there are, requirements to have funding for this. So I bring this to the board's attention because I need now to have a discussion with Appropriations as to how they want to go